Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where husband and wife team go over all the storytelling, world building, and characters of video games because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and this is episode 107.
107. Feels significant.
It doesn't.
But also, now everything starts with 100, so like...
That's just why.
Yeah. I don't know. So it also feels like a college course. We have to get to like the one... I don't know when I'll stop feeling like a class. But anyway.
Okay, before we get into the episode, if you'd like to contact us, you can do that in many different ways. Instagram, Mastodon, Reddit, YouTube, Steam, and Discord down in the links below. Or you can contact us via email at loretogether@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast like our patrons do, you can do that over on patreon.com/loretogether, where you can pay a per episode pledge to get early access to our episodes, early access to our LPs, which are finally coming out again soon.
Yay!
Access to our mini episodes. Anything I'm forgetting? Our questions and answers. Voting for our LP, Mass Effect Let's Play. Yeah, lots of stuff going on. And another way you can support us is by giving us a thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever it is, wherever you're listening. We do appreciate them.
Thank you so much for everyone who already has done that. And thank you for everybody who will do that in the future. But once again, I don't know what we're covering today. I can only guess. I've been told not to look at Mystic's computer screen, and I have tried very hard not to do that.
So let's start with what the game could be. This franchise has existed since 1998, but the last game in the franchise, and the one we'll be covering, is from 2012.
I should know this, but I don't.
I don't think you will. This is not your genre.
Chrono Trigger?
No. Oh, geez, no. If there was a 2012 remake of Chrono Trigger, that'd be great.
Psychonauts?
No.
I'm just spouting things.
Okay, we are going way dark and way depressing. This is Spec Ops: The Line.
Ooh, I definitely don't know anything about this series whatsoever.
So, the franchise, as I said, existed since 98.
Yeah.
But this game, by German developer Jaeger Entertainment, published by 2K in 2012, is a gameplay and stylistic reboot that wasn't a commercial success, although it has a massive cult following.
Okay. Well, that happens for a lot of great things, like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Unfortunately, the game just got delisted from Steam and all other digital marketplaces due to some of the game's music licenses expiring.
No.
Yeah. This got some huge outcry from the community, which might seem a bit weird, as when you're looking at this game, it looks like your typical military shooter.
Right. But I think you're going to cover today why it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got the crew cuts, the gray and brown filter over everything.
Oh my gosh, I hate that filter.
This is the era where everything was gritty and realistic in that not at all gritty, realistic way.
But if we sepia tone it all, everybody's going to believe it more, right?
Yeah, this is, Call of Duty at its absolute height in terms of, before they started just churning out sequels every year.
I don't know. I'd never played any of the zombie multiplayer one, but that seemed to be the one that was worth playing.
Fair, but this is, I think Black Ops 1
Yeah.
or 2 came out around this time, and then they started the sequel every year of a new thing.
That's true.
7 different development teams or whatever making the games.
This also feels like around the same time we had the Tom Clancy games becoming huge hits like Splinter Cell and all of that.
And, all of those are kind of in the war is fun way,
Ew, I don't like the way you said that.
That is kind of how they portray it. You will have, a gunship and, it's just a multi-kill. You have a phosphorus bomb and it's just a multi-kill.
Well, that's also because those games actually do get funding from the military to promote recruitment.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind when you're playing a lot of these military games. At least I'll say this for only the United States, because I know that's to be true for us. I wouldn't be surprised if other countries do it too. But in the United States, our military wants to encourage recruitment. And one of the ways they do that is they do give, I think it's in the way of tax write-offs, but don't have all the details in front of me. But they do incentivize production of games that essentially glorify military careers.
You have to remember, I don't think we're ever going to cover it because I have no idea how well it runs anymore, and I have no idea what the story is like in it to cover.
Yeah.
But the Army actually developed and published a video game called America's Army.
I do. Gosh, how long ago was that?
Pretty long ago.
Yeah, I figured.
And apparently was very realistic in that there are people who learned first aid and other techniques from it that were applicable in real life.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So there was some reality to it, but yeah, there's definitely a glorification of the military in a lot of military shooters. This is not that type of game.
Okay, so Spec Ops.
There is the glorification of it is, a shooter game in that always is kind of gamified in a weird way.
We've gamified the violence, so therefore the violence is fun.
But this goes into places you're not expecting. In fact, the developers wanted to actually critique the concept of war as entertainment in gaming.
Nice.
And basically challenge that whole genre. And so this is going to get dark as we sing wildly through violence and PTSD. Trigger warnings all around. There's going to be wartime violence, civilian casualties and murders, and friendly fire, and lots of heavy stuff.
Oh, man.
So listener discretion is advised going forward.
Please, as somebody who actually... So my trauma is not wartime based, but having to go through trauma responses every once in a while, I do want to tell everybody it's okay to say... You can't do it. Yeah. We have over 100 episodes now. Go listen to another one if you feel bad about it.
A few of those have trigger warnings too, but the lore begins here 6 months prior to the start of the game as the worst series of dust storms in recorded history creep across Dubai and the United Arab Emirates.
Oh, wow.
Dubai's politicians and the wealthy elite downplay the situation before evacuating in secret, leaving countless Emiratis behind. Should note... The fact that this game shows a completely destroyed Dubai got it banned in the United Arab Emirates.
Yes, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Dubai is wholly dependent on being a rich person's playground to a certain extent.
Colonel John Conrad, a decorated but very PTSD-troubled commander of the damned 33rd Battalion of United States Army, was returning home with his unit from Afghanistan when the storm struck. Conrad volunteered the 33rd to help the relief efforts, then deserted with the entire unit when he was ordered to abandon the city and its refugees by the United States government.
Whoa!
As the storms intensified, a massive storm wall engulfed Dubai for miles, disrupting any satellite surveillance and communication. Air travel became nearly impossible, and all but the strongest radio broadcasts were unable to get through.
Yikes. The
33rd declared martial law and struggled to maintain order among the 80-mile-per-hour winds.
Wow, that's a lot to try to manage.
Yeah. With dwindling resources came riots of the population. The last communication out of Dubai stated that the 33rd was attempting to lead a caravan of more than 1,000 civilians out of the city.
Wow, okay.
It never arrived.
Oh, no.
And soon afterwards, the United Arab Emirates declared Dubai a no man's land. All travel to the city was barred. The 33rd was publicly disavowed for treason.
Wow. Okay.
2 weeks before the beginning of the game, a mysterious looped radio signal penetrates the storm wall. Its message is brief. This is Colonel John Conrad, United States Army. Attempted evacuation of Dubai ended in complete failure. Death toll, too many. The United States military decides to covertly send in a 3-man Delta Force team to carry out reconnaissance. The team, consisting of Delta operators Captain Walker, Lieutenant Adams, and Sergeant Lugo, are told to confirm the status of Conrad and any survivors, then radio for extraction. All that setup done, we actually begin the game later in the story with Delta operatives Walker, Adams, and Lugo flying a helicopter past skyscrapers in Dubai in the storm, shooting down several pursuing helicopters until a sudden sandstorm forms, causing one of the pursuers to spin out of control and crash into the trio.
I'm sorry. We're just going to go straight from... We're setting up the premise for why this is happening is, oh, scene and res, you've already been doing this for a minute? That's kind of extreme.
Then we jump back to present day.
Okay.
That is the only flash forward we will have.
Okay, cool.
Walker, Adams, and Lugo traverse the storm wall on foot through the outskirts of a now mostly buried Dubai. Our player character, Walker, is a boring generic commander, which makes sense because he is the player character.
The fact that the player character has to be the least interesting person in the entire story for most video games is such an intriguing concept. Like, sometimes you don't want your most interesting person to be the main character because then they can solve too many problems. But at the same time, you usually want them to at least be interesting enough, right? Yeah. Some sort of internal conflict or, some...
Well, this is where he's at now.
Okay.
Yeah. Adams is a completely by-the-book serious soldier. Just your completely generic serious soldier.
Archetype,
yes. Lugo is comedic relief.
Okay, so we have basically done a typical movie casting.
Yeah, in fact, I was reminded at this point a little bit of the movie Three Kings.
Oh, yeah, that has George Clooney in it?
George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, Spike Jonze, and Ice-T? Can't remember which one. There's two. Ice Cube.
Spike Jonze, the director?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That movie was so many years ago, though. I don't remember everything with the cast.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. I've talked about it before, and
I've seen clips of it.
Ah, okay.
There's a specific scene of when George Clooney's being tortured that I remember seeing on TV because my mother would do the thing where she'd flip through the channels and be like, "Oh, I like this movie," and would start watching in the middle of it.
Oh.
And then I would get all these little scenes from movies. People are like, "Have you seen it?" And technically, no, but I've seen a scene or two. So,
I don't think George Clooney gets tortured.
Isn't there like a scene where somebody's trying to pour oil down his throat?
That is Mark Wahlberg's character.
Oh. Well, that memory got totally mixed up.
That's
but
fine.
Yeah, I remember there was definitely somebody getting oil poured down their throat.
I'm reminded a little bit here because Adams is the black character. Mm-hmm. Lugo is the comedic relief like Spike Jonze's character. So
okay.
And it's all by the book, calm, collected, wisecracking team talking about personal chafing.
Oh, come on, guys. Really? Do I need to know about that?
They find the distress beacon.
You're in the sand. Of course you're chafing. Like, that's just to be expected. It's dry.
They find the distress beacon looping the radio signal they heard. It's been built from spare parts. Things get bad, though, when they discover a fresh body in a Humvee, a member of the 33rd.
A fresh? Like, just...
Still bleeding, like flies around, yeah.
Oh, man.
They come into contact with a group of armed survivors referred to as insurgents.
Ooh.
The insurgents have apparently renewed conflict with what remains of the 33rd and have captured a squad of 33rd soldiers whom they hold hostage. The last thing we get out of a dying hostage is that some of the 33rd's people were taken to a place called The Nest. Then they die.
So we have a vague name of something, but we don't even have an idea of coordinates or...
So they head out following basically drag marks and tracks.
Okay.
Adams says this isn't exactly their mission anymore. They've found the signal. They have found that there are survivors. We should leave.
Yeah, if you're going to do it by the book.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
I do want to point out, at one point during development, this was an ending that they had available. It was
you
planned.
Could select the
peace out. Yeah.
The peace out. I did
but it would have kind of damaged the message they were trying to tell with the game. So
I get that. Though you could always do the extended DLC when you're like, hey, do you want the you're a jerk ending?
Yeah. Walker says that the mission changed from recon to rescue when they found dead members of the 33rd and found that some were taken.
I could see that argument as well, but I'm also not in the military, so feel free to @ us if you think that you know the answer to this.
Upon finally reaching the nest, the team hears broadcasts on homemade speakers by the Radio Man, a former journalist turned DJ that was once embedded with the 33rd in Afghanistan and now speaks on their behalf, saying that the ceasefire is now over before returning to some music.
Oh, wow. Okay.
As the journey progresses, the team finds evidence of what happened in Dubai over the preceding months. From what they can figure, an unstable Conrad and 33rd Battalion returned to Dubai as an occupying force after the evacuation failed, apparently to rule over the remaining survivors.
Whoa.
Soon, increasingly harsh atrocities against civilians were committed to intimidate the population.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Elements of the 33rd staged a coup d'etat against Conrad in protest, forming the Exiles.
Okay.
We also find evidence of civilians who survived the storm and aren't insurgents. Basically, we find a few artifacts that were like dolls and child's toys that were made after the storm. Like,
oh, wow.
Based on the materials they're made of. It's like, yep, this is no way this is before the storm. Walker is conflicted for a while, wondering if he's killing the people he was sent here to save, but then rationalizes it as anyone shooting at him is an enemy. The squad is often coming to be the heroes and oftentimes kind of making things worse as they do this.
Right. I think it's definitely, it sounds like it's the beginning of a tale of like when you have a hammer, everything is a nail.
Unfortunately, the CIA is coming to play here too.
Oh, geez, come on. Can we just have nice things for once?
It's been organizing the insurgents to attack both Conrad's loyalist 33rd and the Exiles as a distraction while the CIA squad called Grey Fox tries to eliminate the evidence of Conrad's actions within the city.
Wow, guys. Wow. Okay. We couldn't just say that, like, what you can literally just say, we had a guy, he went mental and started a cult, or whatever you want to say. You don't have to do the whole erasing history thing.
Barbaric acts of immolation, torture, and execution by death squads are common on all sides throughout the city. Although there is now clear evidence against Conrad, Walker still believes in him, mostly since Conrad saves his life in Kabul during the war.
Oh, man, but I hate that stuff. I hate where it's like, well, you were a good person once and therefore you're always a good person. It's kind of like, so we're going to go into D&D reference now because, of course, that's how my brain works. But back in the era of D&D 3.0, 3.5, Eberron was kind of this fan-encouraged campaign setting that was made. And one of the rules that it came up with was alignment is not something a character permanently has.
Right.
You can have somebody who generally does evil acts, but if they're the kind of person who would, say, save an orphanage because they do find value in saving children, and not for selfish reasons, they're going to be considered lawful good in that moment. But then as soon as they do something evil, then they're lawful evil again.
It's an interesting thing because I've always kind of read that lawful just means that you're following a code.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be an official legal code.
Right.
It is a consistent code that you adhere to regularly. Whereas chaotic is just, it is literally chaos. There's no code, there's no reason. It is just at a whim, and it's not even necessarily your whims or passions. It's anything from convenience to entertainment.
Right.
To whatever, survival, whatever it could be.
The team comes across the Nest's refugees being rounded up by a platoon of Loyalist 33rd. They attempt to intervene peacefully, but the soldiers mistake Walker and his team for CIA operatives and begin a firefight, which is understandable.
Yeah, that's fair.
The 33rd takes heavy casualties and retreats with a number of civilian prisoners. Disturbed at their killing of fellow Americans, Lugo and Adams repeatedly urge Walker to leave Dubai and contact command. Walker insists on investigating further in hopes of evacuating survivors and finding Conrad. Okay,
Walker, we're trying too hard. You have 2 men who are going to try to continue the good work, and you can get back up. Why? Why are we doing this?
We get to this point now where we've gone from helping the refugees to fighting them as insurgents.
Yes.
Helping the 33rd to now fighting them.
Yes.
Our squad, and Walker in particular, have also felt distress. We're not doing any more by-the-book lines when we're doing actions. It's not target down. It feels more emotional. There's more edge to everything that they're talking about now.
Yeah, because you're in the middle of survival, and everything is so much more raw when it's about survival.
The team learns that another CIA agent, Thomas Daniels, has been captured by the 33rd.
That is the most boring name I've heard this whole time. And
Apologies to any Thomas Daniels.
We've had some relatively common
It is kind of one
American
step
names,
above John Smith, isn't it?
Yeah, Thomas Daniels. Like, that's not your real name, Daniels, is it?
His interrogation is blasted by the radio man, which allows Lugo to trace the signal, prompting Delta to head towards the site as well. There they find a mutilated and long dead body of Daniels. The broadcast was a trap set by the radio man for another CIA agent, Rick Gould, which is a better name.
It is.
Leading a band of insurgents, Gould helps Delta escape from the ambush, but is later captured by the 33rd, and his men are all killed. We venture into an insane scene with former members of the 33rd hung up on light poles,
Whoa!
warning to those who have betrayed them. We also find tunnels of insurgents and then a bunch of survivors who are completely annihilated by a white phosphorus attack.
No!
Now, if you don't know, from what I can find, and I did find conflicting information, it seems white phosphorus is either highly controlled or perhaps outright banned for use in weapons and only generally allowed to be used in the creation of smoke for masking and stuff.
Yeah.
It's scary stuff. It burns as long as it is exposed to air. If you cover it, it will smolder until air gets back to it when it will again burst into flames.
Yeah.
You can literally see a video by Nile Red where he has white phosphorus. It's flaming. He puts a jar over it. It goes out. He pulls the jar back.
Yeah. And it's almost, it's one of the ingredients, if I know, of like a flashbang, because that's kind of how brightly it burns as well. So even if you survive, you're blinded and you're trying to run away.
It creates heavy smoke and it burns at 800 to 2500 degrees Celsius.
No. No.
During this research, I had to see some pictures. Do not look up pictures of phosphorus burns
No.
from the various military conflicts around the world. They are quite horrific.
No, you're literally melting flesh at that point. It's okay. I'm sorry. I'm glad we did the trigger warning at the beginning, because this is gross and awful.
We are not even close.
No.
Walking on the burning bodies, we'll find that Gould is being held here, and we can choose to save Gould or save a couple civilians near his position. No matter what action the player chooses, Gould will end up dying, but the civilians die if you don't rescue them.
Right.
So that is a choice you can make. But an operations plan found in his body directs Delta to the gate, a 33rd base.
Okay, so you can still at least get the directions you need, but you guys, I mean, I would have chosen save the civilians because they didn't sign up for this. Gould did.
Assuming that Gould intended to take the gate from the 33rd, Walker and his men arrive at the gate to press the attack, only to find a full company of 33rd soldiers guarding the entrance from the CIA and insurgents. And we look like we could be either. Anytime we poke our head up, we're basically really shot badly.
Oh, no.
So next to us is an abandoned 33rd mortar loaded with white phosphorus.
No.
Lugo objects to using the mortar, as the team has literally just seen the effects white phosphorus has. But Adams and Walker overrule Lugo and fire the mortar.
No.
The phosphorus strike completely obliterates the company, and you are literally on a tablet aiming this.
I don't like this. I don't like this game anymore.
No, this is the scene where I watched a few Let's Plays of this because I didn't remember exactly how this went when I played it.
Yeah.
But this is literally the scene where everyone goes from, I am a cool war hero to, oh no. Oh my God.
No, why are we doing this? How is this? Oh my gosh.
As Delta walks through the aftermath, a mortally injured soldier that the team finds within the blast zone questions the slaughter. His choked why is visceral.
Oh, no.
When Walker says that they brought it on themselves, he dies, stating that the 33rd only wanted to help. To the team's horror, they find that the 33rd had taken the civilians from the nest to the gate only for their own safety in the coming battles. Piles of charred corpses, all killed by Delta team's phosphorus strike, many of them women and children, are found fenced off section of the entrance.
No.
Lugo realizes that Gould never intended to take the gate, only wanted to free the civilians. Adams and Lugo fight. Lugo points at Walker, saying, "You made us killers. In a clever bit, Lugo points at both Walker and the player while yelling this because the camera zoomed in on Walker's face. Walker fixates on a burned mother holding her child, but shows no outward remorse, though it's clear he's horrified, honestly.
Yeah.
He ends up putting the blame entirely on the 33rd and pushes the others on despite their obvious anger and trauma.
Yeah, this is this reminds me of a debate I heard a long time ago on a podcast where it was just there was an excuse made for a really bad event where essentially a law officer behaved badly. Oh no, we never saw that happen before. But and the explanation was that they had come from a traumatic scene and then had to go to this not nearly as traumatic scene, and someone was trying to justify it being like, well, yeah, when I was on the 911 calls, you at most could get a 5-minute break and then you have to get back on the calls, and if you get another bad call, it's just how it is. And it's like, no, that's not how humans work. Humans need time to process things, and they need time to be able to talk to somebody. They need to be able to have some sort of human connection and interaction to justify that they're not alone. Maybe not justify, but more like to help cope with the process. And it is different for different people and different cultures, but I hate the idea that you just need to work through it. It's like, no. You can't pretend that the thing isn't happening to you and expect that to not affect how you interact with the world around you.
Right.
So now we have these highly stressed men who feel ambiguous and almost ambivalent about the original mission that they're in, uncertain about who the good guy is, uncertain about each other now.
Yeah.
There is no way that continuing forward is going to end well.
Nope. And as you said, the crazy thing is here, we are still not sure who the good guys in this story are.
At this point, why have you not reported back to command and said, Fubar? Just say, Fubar, we're getting out. We can't fix this. Yeah. We're only 3 guys.
And the good guys are certainly not us. We just bombed a bunch of civilians.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
It's not the 33rd Exiles who are killing people. It's not the insurgents who are killing people. It's not the CIA who are killing people.
Dude, the CIA who are killing people to cover up all the other killing of people. Like, It's crazy.
The only good people here seem to be the civilians who have to deal with this crazy scenario and hope that they survive it.
Oh my gosh. Just imagine a week before this is happening, you were waiting tables and saving up money for something that was important to you. And now you're trying to survive this? God. Okay. This is going to get worse, right?
Oh, yes. Shortly after leaving, Delta finds Conrad's executed command team.
Wow. Okay.
Walker uses a small radio they find inside the gate to communicate with whom he believes to be Conrad himself. Throughout the story, Conrad questions the morality of Walker's actions as tensions rise between the team, making Walker adjust his belief that Conrad is innocent in all this. Soon, Walker comes across 2 men tied to a bridge with snipers positioned on all sides.
Oh my gosh.
Conrad tells Walker that one, an Emirati survivor, and the other is a 33rd soldier. Both committed serious crimes. The survivor stole water for his family, which was a capital offense. And the soldier arrested him, killing the survivor's family in the process. Conrad then orders Walker to pick one to execute. Regardless of Walker's decision, Lugo and Adams question Walker's mental condition as he urges them towards Conrad's most likely vantage point, which is the Dubai Seaside Tower. Should note, this is a fictional tower, but in the game, it is the tallest building in the city.
Okay.
Now...
So the game forces you to choose between...
You have to pick. There's this weird thing of you make bad choices, but the game almost never gives you a way not to.
Because...
There are exceptions. We will get to one soon, but...
Because I would feel like the thing to do to really mess with a player at this point is do the third option of I choose nobody, and then both of them die.
If you choose nobody, then you die. The snipers shoot you.
Oh. Okay.
So
interesting.
That was an option, but it doesn't go anywhere.
That's less interesting.
Yeah.
That's less interesting. Just kill both. I would think somebody that twisted when Conrad is basically like, this guy's following orders, this one's trying to save his family. Like, just, it would make sense at that point to kill both. It's like, oh, so you're above this? Well, then I'm above this too, and then you kill both of them. I would think that would be the more compelling evil guy choice. I am not condoning actually killing people.
Along the way, Delta finds Agent Riggs leading a raid on the Dubai Underwater Aquatic Coliseum, the city's last main water supply. Riggs tells Delta that insurgent control of the water will cripple the 33rd's operations in Dubai and bring peace, but only if they aid him. When the water trucks the group sees fail to break free of the 33rd's defenses, Riggs intentionally crashes them. After recovering, Walker hears a broadcast from the radio man declaring that Dubai is now under martial law. He then comes across a mortally wounded Riggs pinned under a truck while civilians fill their water cans next to him from the shot-up tanker truck.
I'm sorry, that's what you do at the time like this. I can't be mad.
Riggs explains that he wanted to destroy the water supply no matter what the cost by manipulating the insurgents. If knowledge of what the 33rd did in Dubai got made public, it would pretty much cause the whole region to declare war on the United States in retaliation, a war which America would likely lose. Riggs admits that he wanted to cause the remaining population to die of dehydration to ensure that the 33rd's atrocities would never be known.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. That's a slow, awful death.
The player can choose to kill Riggs or let him be burned alive. You really have no way of getting him out, so you either put a bullet in him to kill him quickly or let him immolate.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
After reuniting with Adams and Lugo, with Dubai's population facing extinction within days now, Delta heads to the Trans Emirates building to silence the radio man and warn the city. As the journey progresses, all three men become gradually edgier and more violent. Walker begins suffering from vivid hallucinations, and they fight to the top of the building. Literally, like he envisions soldiers that he's fighting as his squad mates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Delta finds the radio man, who is calm and surrenders peacefully, literally waving a white flag.
That seems...
In a very nonchalant... He thinks of himself as Edward R. Murrow, pretty much.
I was going to say, this feels very Joker-esque.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm here for chaos. That's all I wanted.
He's there to make his career, but it's not broadcasting out, so... Lugo and the radio man set up the signal for Walker. Basically, he's going to try to warn the city before Lugo pulls a gun and executes the radio man.
Whoa!
Adams is furious at Lugo for being so brash, while Lugo feels the radio man was keeping the 33rd on their trail the whole time and would not let them leave alive. It's a heck of a twist, because up until now, Lugo's kind of been, I don't want to say the heart of the team. He calls himself literally a killer at one point.
Yeah.
Before you even start killing people, he's just, I'm a trained killer. Mm-hmm. But he's the one who objects to the phosphorus and everything. Like, he's the one who seems to have a little bit more of a heart about the people.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird twist, and it just kind of shows how unraveled they've all become. To the point, so before I said that they were becoming less professional in dialogue, now Walker's referring to enemies with swears and dehumanizing them.
Right. Okay, that's common.
Can I say that it's very weird when we cover games like these where we have to keep our clean rating without swearing, but the topic is
absolutely violent and vile and not meant for children. Like, I only do it so for accessibility with your family, right? Which is a strange thing to say when we've talked about, melting people to death, getting run over by cars, getting shot in the head. It's strange, but we're also American, so that seems to fit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
As the 33rd converge on the building, Walker informs the city of Delta's planned evacuation effort. Walker tells the people of Dubai they are going to evac them, but first they have to deal with Conrad. Mm-hmm. It should be worth noting, we've seen plenty of civilians. For most of them, we made their lives much worse if they survived the encounter. They likely do not trust Delta at all.
Of course not.
Adams commandeers a UH-60 Blackhawk helicopter for Delta, and Walker destroys the radio tower as they flee the scene, leading to the helicopter sequence from the opening of the game, which Walker seems to remember, claiming we've done this already. Or we've already done this. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
We have a huge hallucination now, with Walker approaching a flaming tower in the desert as people from the past of the game and story approach and question his motives and choices. Awakening from the illusion, Walker is contacted by Adams, who informs him that Lugo is out of contact. Remember, that they crashed at the beginning. And so after the crash, we get this hallucination. Walker and Adams regroup at the crash site and contact Lugo, who has no weapon and has a broken arm after the crash.
Oh, no.
Walker and Adams fight their way through enemy lines in hopes of reaching Lugo before the 33rd can. Despite their efforts, they are too late to stop Lugo from being lynched by a mob of civilians, angered at the Americans' destruction of their water supply.
Of course, yeah. Nope. Makes sense.
When attempts to resuscitate Lugo fail, Adams requests permission to open fire on the crowd.
Oh my gosh, no.
And this is one of the few times that you're actually given the good choice. The player can choose to either scare away the crowd by firing into the air or kill them all in retribution for Lugo's death.
Oh my. Well, that's not going to do. Oh,
I should tell you right now, the game doesn't tell you have a choice. There is no markers on the screen.
Yeah, it's not like Mass Effect where it's like, okay.
You have to basically think to shoot into the air.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And at that point, everything's been so gamified.
Yeah, I watched a player do everything and kept reloading to see and, shoot in the legs, shoot them all, shoot in the legs, shoot in the air. They all run away. So, yeah.
Wow.
I don't remember what I did. I know I didn't know you could fire into the air, so I'm pretty sure I shot them when I played this.
Well, I feel like in a real life situation, would you really be thinking that way too? After everything you've gone through, after everything once again, I'm going to refer to the Donner Party because apparently that's a thing I do. But there's this idea of like, once you cross the line of cannibalism, it's so easy to go ease back into it if you're desperate enough.
It's interesting.
And I feel like murder's the same thing.
It's interesting that you say this because I believe I usually play with achievement notifications turned off.
Yeah.
And I vaguely remember that there is an achievement for this. I don't know if it's an achievement just for getting to that point or if it's an achievement for shooting into the air, but there is an achievement for this scene.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm curious because it's called Held the Line. And I'm wondering if it's... We'll get there. I'm sorry. I did a great thing for a podcast. I made a motion with my hand to imply communication.
Oh, you do that so much, mister. Oh, man.
We'll get to what that may mean later.
Okay.
So, after Lugo's death and however you choose to resolve that crowd, Walker and Adams make their way to the Dubai Seaside Tower to confront Conrad. Walker's hallucinations are nearly constant at this point, and Adams completely blames Walker for Lugo's death, but goes along with his reasoning that Conrad also deserves to die, and perhaps they also deserve the same fate given the horrors they have visited upon Dubai.
Right.
The two of them are soon surrounded by the last remnants of Conrad's men. Walker surrenders.
What?
And Adams is angry as hell, saying he didn't come this far to surrender, implying he wants to go out in a blaze of glory. Walker says it's the only way into the tower.
Oh.
With Adams' response being that the mission is over. They failed. Walker says it's not over as long as he's still breathing, so Adams pushes Walker to safety before he just starts fighting to the death against the 33rd.
Wow.
Weary, grieving, and on the brink of death himself, Walker stumbles into the entrance of the tower. Upon entering, Walker is saluted by the remnants of the 33rd, who surrendered to him.
What? Was he Conrad all along?
Walker demands to know where Conrad is and is directed to Conrad's penthouse. He arrives at the penthouse of the tower without incident and confronts Conrad. Conrad appears to be the paranoid, charismatic force behind the atrocities that Walker was hoping for. He's even painting pictures of the burned civilians, the ones we killed, including the mother and child, which is our first clue that something's a little off.
Oh, God.
It's all horrific and nuts until Walker finds Conrad's decaying corpse on the penthouse deck.
Yep.
Walker learns that Conrad committed suicide an unknown amount of time after his failed evacuation attempt, and the colonel that Walker has been in contact with during the game is actually a traumatic hallucination that none of his team witnessed, existing only within his subconsciousness. This mental projection of Conrad appears to Walker, explaining that Walker knew he had the chance of stopping. His orders were to recon and then radio command.
Right!
But Walker pushed ahead out of a desire to be something that he isn't, a hero. Walker says he tried to save them, but the hallucination points out that Walker has acted nothing like a savior. His talents lie in destruction and killing. So to maintain his sanity after the white phosphorus strike and rationalizing the actions he and the player carried out, Walker distorted many subsequent events of the game to make Conrad look responsible. One of the hallucinations, those two people we had to choose between, the man who stole the water and the soldier who killed his family, they were long dead. Walker chose nothing. But we do see Adams and Lugo confused as to why Walker is stopping for. What's he doing? But he's the commander.
Oh my gosh.
Had Delta immediately left Dubai at the beginning of the game, each subsequent event may have turned out for the better. With his fantasy coming to an end now that the truth is directly in front of him, Conrad forces Walker at gunpoint to decide once and for all whether he is to blame for his actions in Dubai. And there are 6 different outcomes here. Walker can shoot himself. He dies in the penthouse. No distress call is ever sent out. Dubai and its civilians are left in ruins. Walker can shoot the illusion of Conrad. He can then use the radio to call for the immediate evacuation of Dubai. After the credits roll, we get another choice after an Army Humvee finds Walker brandishing a rifle. We can drop it and surrender, or shoot them. We can still shoot friendly forces.
Oh my gosh.
Surrendering to the patrol will evacuate Walker. A soldier remarks that the unit has driven through the whole city looking for Walker, often coming across the results of the player's actions. When questioned how he survived, Walker replies, "Who said I did?"
Yeah.
If he kills the patrol, he just radios U.S. Command and welcomes them to Dubai. If he is killed by the patrol, though, we cut to a shot of Walker lying in a pool of blood, remembering a conversation between himself and Conrad during the war, before the fighting in Kabul worsened. As his dying body is being watched by the patrol, Walker remembers casually remarking about returning home. Conrad replies, "You can't go home. There's a line men like us have to cross. If we're lucky, we do what's necessary, and then we die."
Wow. Okay. That's chilling.
And that's the end.
Whoa.
Not a commercial success.
Because you had to do so much thinking. Like
not only that, but so not a commercial success, partially because gameplay wise, it's very middle of the road.
Oh,
compared to its contemporaries.
Which is sad because the storytelling in it is
like, it's not
pretty compelling.
Yeah, it's not bad gameplay wise. It just doesn't stand out. Mm-hmm. And you have to get a bit into the game
before you realize the mystery of it all.
But I will say, when you look at the screenshots for all the different games that are out at the time, there's a lot of, the awesome shots that you get from Call of Duty and everything, where you have just those awesome set pieces and everything. One of the screenshots for this one, a bunch of dead bodies in front of torn flags.
Oh, man.
So even in the screenshots, there's that's different.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it does have a huge cult fan following. And it's weird. So one of the designers or developers who is no longer with the company and doesn't have the rights to it has said it's not the end for this. I think people are going to fight for this one to be brought back, or maybe edit the game files to remove the music. Something, who knows?
There's probably going to be something to bring this back, because I feel like it's got a really interesting thesis going on.
Yeah.
These are the kind of stories that really get me going, per se. I love a story that's trying to help you as the person who's absorbing it, let's say, because you could be reading it, you could be playing it, you could be watching it, however you're absorbing the story. The person who's absorbing the story has to then start answering stuff for themselves.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of stories that I really love. Like, I don't think I'm ever at the point where I write too pulpy, so I don't think I'm ever going to really write something like that. But I think, oh man, it's really interesting how they were able to like get into the messy nuance of it all.
Yeah. And the fact that the choices aren't always cleanly delivered to you. After chapters and hours, like, I think this game is, that phosphorus scene happens about 3-4 hours in.
Yeah, so it's not a long game.
Right. After that happens, to still think, let me shoot above this crowd of people.
Yeah.
You know, how many people did that? Like,
yeah, because at that point,
and again, this is the game where when you watch people play it, there are literally reactions of people reacting to the phosphorus strike.
Yeah.
Because it literally goes from, oh, these guys are just all a bunch of, you know, they're the bad guys. They're the, I did that. Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't,
we're not going to get to the phosphorus strike, so I may just link a video of that, but
I'd appreciate not doing that. Because that's the point of the game where I would stop playing. Because for me personally, I mean, like, I'm even experiencing this when I'm writing scenes. I get so sensitive about that stuff. I would feel guilty about something that didn't even happen in real life.
Well, it's interesting to watch it because we're always told the violent video games will make you violent. And then this is a violent video game, and most people probably go, I don't like this. They'll play it through because you play a game, but it's like, I don't feel good about this.
Right.
This is not a feel-good game.
No, it's not.
This is not I am an awesome soldier. There's comments on YouTube being like, I am a killing machine when you're playing other games, and this one's like, I'm a killing machine.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just, you feel so gross about it.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of like, if you continue to play, I'm not surprised that there aren't a lot of people who would know to shoot the air, because there's almost a complacency of, I am the killing machine.
Yeah.
There's
and,
I don't know. It's just,
it is kind of weird to think about this because, you know, we talk about other games where we have characters dealing with, you know, a fractured psyche, you know, dealing with a snapped reality, or even just dealing with the loss of, you know, all the bodies behind them and the fact that weighs on them. And this probably is one of the few that's done it the best, I feel.
It's done it also in a modern way, because I feel like in certain games, if you're doing more hand-to-hand combat, I think it feels less absurd, less useless, less insignificant.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you have something that's as completely lethal as a gun, and the way that it destroys the human body in an instant way, and it almost involves no skill to counter. It's just, I think it feels very different than if you're playing a fighting game where you're punching, or even like using a sword and you're brandishing against people. It's like, oh, they had a chance. There's a skill thing here.
It's kind of that weird point of, the game is telling you how absolutely terrible you are being, like the terrible destruction you have wrought through your actions. Meanwhile, when you get headshots or whatever, you get a little bar fills up. because that's the gamification part, you know?
But I feel like that's how we train people to kill too. So a good example of something that kind of talks about this well is Starship Troopers, and I'll refer to the movie because I've not read the book, and I don't know if I would like to read the Heinlein book. but it's interesting to hear about the book. But the movie itself is really good about talking about the propaganda necessary to quote unquote dehumanize.
Yeah.
And they're literally fighting bugs, but that's kind of the point. Like,
yeah.
That's how you're always going to see that enemy anyway.
Yeah.
And I think I watched this movie way too young. We just had this conversation like a while ago, Mystic and I. And there's a scene that my mother loves, and I barely remembered as a kid because it's not the scene you're going to remember the most from Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers is incredibly violent. People are having limbs burnt off with bug acid, getting stabbed, left and torn apart, literally, getting accidentally shot in the head even before we get to battle.
Yeah.
There's it's in a society where if you're going to become a citizen, you join the army.
Yeah. Well, that guarantees citizenship anyway.
Yeah. And then it's insanely violent to the point of almost comedy, how violent it can get.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of all of that, when our lead character is joining the army, he's coming from Buenos Aires and he's going to join the army, and a guy behind a desk goes, "Oh, Army Reserves, good call." That made me the man who I am today.
Infantry, yeah.
Infantry. That's made me the man that I am today. And then he turns at the desk. He only has one full limb left. He has
no legs and one hand.
One hand, yeah. And then I think he's got one fake arm, and then he doesn't even have his fake legs on if he has them. Yeah. The commentary on it is brutal. And I think that's the feeling you get if you're watching Starship Trooper with the right lens, because some people didn't realize that it was actually.
Oh, that has a message. Yes,
it has a capital M message in there. Some people just thought it was a cool sci-fi movie with bugs, not realizing, oh, guys, no, there's a lot more going on there. But I feel like Spec Ops is doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that it does better than Starship Troopers is as you're playing it, I would love to see if there's anybody who, after the phosphorus attack, doesn't realize that there's a capital M message in this game. Starship Troopers was so good at being parody that people didn't realize it was parody, whereas Spec Ops is very committed to the message.
I don't think you can not pay attention to the message when Lugo is literally pointing at you made us f***ing killers, and it's slowly zooming in on this burned image of a burned mother and burned child, like holding her burned child.
The purest form of innocence that we as humans kind of recognize, because the idea in most situations is that ideally that is your first human connection ever out of the womb is with your mother. So
it's like the universal symbol for this was evil.
Yeah. Yeah. You have destroyed one of the most purest forms of love you could ever consider destroying. It is an absolute image of hopelessness seared into your mind at that point.
Yeah.
And
that's why I think it's so interesting that Conrad is literally painting that same figure, that the same mother and child.
But it's almost kind of like a recounting of his sins. It's essentially it's almost like, in Egypt where they weigh your heart to see how many sins you've had against, and they see is it lighter than a feather or not. That is kind of almost what's happening in that moment. He is weighing his own heart to see how heavy it is, and it is deemed too heavy.
There is a theory.
Yeah.
When Walker's like in the gunfight, when you get there the second time, and he's like, didn't we do this already? Is that you're basically like, at that point, he's dead and in hell.
Yeah, he's in purgatory.
Yeah, he is reliving all his stuff, which is a very interesting thing after we just did Summerland a couple episodes ago.
Yes. Oh, man. So And let's just, and I know it's so funny because our last episode was so much shorter, and then this episode's going to be so long, but
next episode's going to be potentially really short or potentially really long. I have no idea yet. It's the goofiest game.
Well,
it's such a different tone shift than this one.
To talk about this one, comparing it to Summerland is a game that was literally talking about a philosophy, and specifically moralistic philosophy. And it did some things well.
Yeah.
But it leaves you wanting.
Yes.
Wanting so much. This game says it's going to be a game about war, so you think of it more in the terms of like Call of Duty, I'm the good guy thing. And then it forces you to think. And I feel like the latter version is definitely a more effective storytelling premise and way to do it.
Yeah.
But, and then as somebody who is observing and absorbing the story, like, is it fair to bring a message to your audience without them realizing that was your intention the entire time?
I think if your idea is to critique the genre, you need to kind of surreptitiously get it in there.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
Yeah, which I think is why this has the staying power that it does in terms of slowly growing a fandom, because nobody bought this when it came out, but then word of mouth slowly makes it grow a little bit.
This changed the way. Well, I mean, I feel like that's how a lot of the best stuff I've ever read or heard of happened. Somebody else told me you need to read it. Somebody else told me you need to play it.
I remember getting this game before we were doing lore together because I saw a meme, and it was, one of those things of, I play this game, no emotion, and I play Spec Ops: The Line, tears. Yeah. And I was like, really? Spec Ops: The Line? That just like a military shooter. And then I'd be like, all right, it's like $3 on sale or whatever it was.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah.
I
don't know what it was, but it was cheap enough for me to just get it on that alone and being like, I'll play this eventually. And then we started the podcast. So,
well, I'm glad that it worked out for us. I'm glad we covered it because there's a lot to say about it.
And I did play it back then, but it's just, I guess, like it weighed on me, but I hadn't dove into all of it because before the podcast, I didn't pay as much attention to all dialogue and everything that I do now. Like,
I think
the phosphorus scene, obviously horrifying.
I'll be honest, Mystic. This might be something that we should talk about for our patrons. I think the practice of talking about storytelling as much as we has made us better creators, because I feel like certain things with my writing project right now flow. And as much as it's a different medium, I'm just thinking about it differently, and it just makes more sense. And I would be interested to see if you feel the same, but maybe we should record that for our patrons at another time.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay. So patrons, hope you look forward to that. Because we will do it. It might take us 2-3 months to do it, to be honest, but we're going to do it. It's called being parents. And
until then, I guess for now, just remember the Thursday after this premieres to public is when we will do the first hour. If you want to see how the first hour of Spec Ops goes. Definitely not the darkest hour.
Not the darkest hour.
That does remind me, actually, before we finish. Definitely this game was based very heavily by stuff like Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yeah.
And Heart of Darkness, which was done by Conrad, so...
Yeah, Heart of Darkness. I had to read that in high school, and let me tell you, I did not. It was just, they were like, can you see all the motifs of light and dark? And I got to a point where I was like, I am tired of all the motifs of light and dark. I am over it. You have to find another motif, sir. You have to find another motif. I was so done. They're like, look at it, the difference between the black and the white. I'm like, there is nothing but black and white on this page now. And I'm not talking about the letters on the paper. I am so over it. I was so over that book. And then they were like, it's just like Apocalypse Now. And that is why I've never watched Apocalypse Now. So anyway.
And now we have this.
So anyway, with that being said.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. Thursday after this is open to public, catch us for the first hour live stream. And don't forget alternate Thursdays. A game whose choices are much more obvious we are doing Mass Effect.
The choices are obvious, even if the dialogue wheel isn't.
Yeah. Where the choices are obvious and also they don't matter. It's like, whose line is it anyway?
They do.
How many points have we gotten?
Okay, yeah.
So, okay. I said my piece, and thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.